Well, welcome to the first of the 2010-11 Edinburgh Lecture Series. The theme for 2010-11 is Talking Cities. Tonight's lecture represents a slight departure for us. This lecture launches the Rethinking the City event and takes place in Riddles Court here in Edinburgh over the coming weekend.
I'd like you all to raise your voices to Patrick Geddes.
The intention is to reconvene the sort of international meetings held by Sir Patrick Geddes and colleagues over 100 years ago.
What we're trying to create here over the weekend is a kind of learning community. We're coming together for a fairly short time. Geddes had longer, I think, but we've got 2 days, so we really want to use it in that spirit.
The focus of the Rethinking the City weekend is to ask how communities can set the agenda and shape the life and future of the city.
Here then is a group of planners and architects, educators and academics, researchers, environmentalists and civic activists, all gathered to learn, share ideas and plan action in the spirit of Patrick Geddes. And as it happens, on the weekend of his 156th birthday. But who exactly was this man? And where is the evidence of him to be found?
I'm not a Patrick Geddes scholar in any shape or form. I think we did him at school, and then I forgot all about him until I got involved in Save Our Old Town.
His background is biology, so he saw schools and education from the point of view of a biologist.
Now, this is a letter from Charles Darwin. I've read several of your biological papers with very great interest, and I've formed, if you will permit me to say so, a high opinion of your abilities. I believe you are well fitted to occupy any chair of natural history, for I'm convinced that example is fully as important as precept to students. Yours faithfully, Charles Darwin.
We've got 3 sheets that we've found that are collected by him from his trip to Mexico in 1879.
Patrick Geddes was a pioneering ecologist, botanist, town planner, who helped with a lot of cultural renewal in the Old Town. Regeneration through sort of art, beauty, education, through local people and local projects, not through sweeping governmental legislation and measures.
Along the High Street and the Lawn Market are sites that were designated under a municipal sanitary improvement scheme in 1893. The council decided to try a different form of sanitary improvement because Geddes had started to do things in the 1880s and the Social Union, which had a housing arm.
But Patrick Geddes is more than a Victorian scientist, town planner and social improver of a bygone age. His ideas on education, the environment and society, groundbreaking at the time, are more relevant today than ever.
I think one of the things that's amazing about Geddes is that if you take his thinking, it's a jumping off point for practically anything.
The more you read about Geddes, the more you realise what an amazing mind he had, because a lot of the ideas that he had ring very truly today. I mean, he'd really approve of curriculum for excellence, for instance.
He was for interdisciplinary studies. He didn't see science and humanities as separate. Subjects shouldn't be segmented because life shouldn't be segmented.
His holistic approach, not just of children and young people, but of the community and on how we learn.
Education was the key to man's upliftment and understanding of humanity.
When you read some of his writing, it's often it's just a few words he's using, expresses ideas that are extremely big. We're going through this period in the early 21st century when we're finally realising the mess that the ecology of the planet is in. We've got an economic crisis going on about it, and there's this bit of words about some people think we live by the jingling of our coins.
Today we think of sustainable development. We think of the gap between the urban and the rural and how we need to bring them back together.
I think the message from Geddes is some key ecological principles and some models of thinking about scale in terms of region and locality. The globalised model has just failed. It's a spectacular failure. You know, it's destroying the planet and natural resources at a pace that it can't keep up with.
He was a very early person who called for conservation because he said nature was crucial. People who were starved of nature were stunted. It was one of his sort of statements, and therefore to have nature preserved is obviously a part of that. There's no point in saying people need to get out into nature if there isn't any nature to get out into.
Learning from nature, involving people directly with nature, to him is a fundamental idea.
Geddes said, by leaves do we live. What he meant by that was it was photosynthesis, it was the energy coming in from photosynthesis that led to everything else.
When he talked about ecology, he meant everything. And when he talked about sociology, he meant everything. That he was always trying to get hold of intellectual tools that would enable him to relate things. If you're thinking of why that's important to today, well, the answer's pretty obvious. We have massive cultural disjunctions, massive cultural failings of understanding, and massive ecological problems. I mean, for Geddes, it was all one set of interrelated issues.
So I think a lot of his writings and thinkings and ideas could almost be a starting point for a curriculum so that you then understand what is our relationship with the planet, how does the world work.
He's actually very much a man of the 21st century. It's almost as if we've caught up with him.